Hey, how you doing? This is At a Post. Hundreds of lawyers and staff are quitting Trump's Justice Department in the Civil Rights Division because they're being told you need to actually focus on civil rights now. This is not about terrorizing police or trying to get people equal pay when you're not doing equal work. No more diversity, equity, and inclusion lawsuits. It's time to get back to protecting people. Well, they can't do that, so they're going to have to leave. Instead of having to fire these people, they're leaving on their own, and that's terrific. From Breitbart, hundreds of lawyers quit at DOJ's Civil Rights Division as Harmeet Dillon cleans house. And from the New York Times, Trump recast mission of Justice Department Civil Rights Office, prompting an exodus. Hundreds of lawyers and other staff members flee the arm of the agency that defends constitutional rights, because now they're actually being asked to defend constitutional rights. The DOJ's Civil Rights Division became notorious for partisan litigation, focusing on Democratic Party priorities instead of civil rights. New DOJ Civil Rights Chief Harmeet Dillon said that the departing attorneys are welcome to leave since many had placed politics ahead of the actual function of the department. The Civil Rights Division did nothing during the wave of anti-Semitism that rocked American campuses and cities after the Hamas terror attacks on Israel on October 7, 2023. And it's understandable that maybe it wasn't the focus of what the people were doing there, what they were really looking at doing. It wasn't the right race that was being targeted. So, okay, maybe they didn't get around to doing a lot. No, they didn't do anything on the college campuses. That's how it was able to get so crazy. What they did have time for was for things like this. Mississippi Senate paid black woman attorney half as much as white ones, according to the U.S. Justice Department. That they could work on. But all of the riots, insanity, craziness on campuses, that they had no time for, no resources for. They also focused instead on filing political cases against Republican states, such as a lawsuit in 2021 that targeted Georgia's new voting integrity law, which was less stringent than laws in some Democrat-run states. Remember that? They were calling it Jim Crow 2.0, even though some Democrat states had even tougher laws than that in Georgia because it made it harder to actually cheat in the elections. The Trump administration has since dropped that case. The division got politicized under previous Democrat administrations. Under Obama and under Attorney General Eric Holder and Civil Rights Division Chief Tom Perez, for example, the division dropped an open and shut case against the New York Black Panther Party for intimidating voters in Pennsylvania. Members of the party had shown up at polling places in the 2008 election with nightsticks, threatening white voters. But that's okay. Don't worry about things like that if you want to show up with nightsticks, threatening voters. That's cool as long as it's for the right race. That's how they were running the Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice. The Civil Rights Division had also been critical to consent decrees imposed on local police departments during the heyday of the Black Lives Matter movement, when police were accused of systemic racism. Under Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and DOJ Civil Rights Division Kristen Clark, that's this lady, who had a previous record of tolerating anti-Jewish hatred, had been silent about anti-Semitism. So all these people are being run out of that office, which is a huge accomplishment because usually they stay and try to sabotage as much as they possibly can. But under the new leadership, they had to leave because they were given assignments they couldn't possibly consider doing because they had to do with actual civil rights. Hundreds of lawyers and other staff members are leaving the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division as veterans of the office say they've been driven out by Trump administration officials who want to drop its traditional work in order to aggressively pursue cases against the Ivy League, other schools, and liberal cities. The wave of departures has only accelerated in recent days as the administration reopened its deferred resignation program, which would allow employees to resign but continue to be paid for a period of time. The offer for those who work in the division expires on Monday. More than 100 lawyers are expected to take it, on top of a raft of earlier departures in what would amount to a decimation of the ranks of a crucial part of the Justice Department. Quote, now over 100 attorneys decided they'd rather not do what their job requires them to do, and I think that's fine, Harmeet Dillon said, the new head of the division, in an interview with Glenn Beck. Quote, we don't want people in the federal government who feel like it's their pet project to go after and persecute police departments, she said. The job here is to enforce the federal civil rights laws, not woke ideology. Traditionally, the department has protected the constitutional rights of minority communities and marginalized people, often by monitoring police departments for civil rights violations, protecting the right to vote, and fighting housing discrimination. Now, more than a dozen current and former Civil Rights Division lawyers say the new administration appears intent on not simply modifying the direction of the work, as has been typical during changeovers from a Democratic administration to a Republican one. The administration is instead determined, the lawyers said, to fundamentally end how the storied division has functioned since it was established during the Eisenhower administration in the 1950s, becoming an enforcement arm for the president's agenda against state and local officials, college administrators, and student protesters, among others. It doesn't matter who you are when you're violating people's civil rights. You ought not to be doing that. This is not a police force or something reserved specifically for specific skin colors funded by the federal government. This is for everyone. Don't violate anyone's civil rights. How about that? It is an unexpected and remarkable shift from the start of the second Trump administration, when many lawyers in the division planned to stay on, confident that their work would be much like it was in the first Trump term, with shifting priorities but not wholesale changes. They were trying to stay so they could undermine the current administration and continue to violate people's civil rights. All an unconstitutional power grab that went on for far too long. Until recently, the Civil Rights Division had not faced the kind of intense pressure from above that other parts of the Justice Department had to confront in the early days of the administration. The Criminal Division's Public Integrity Section was one of the first to start receiving ultimatums from the department's political leadership. And there's this whole conversation that goes on about, well, you're just the political leadership. You were either appointed by the president, maybe you were or you weren't confirmed by the Senate. We're the experts here. We're the ones with the experience. We know how this department should be run. We know what its priorities should be. Hold on a second, though. Political leadership is not like less important than established, experienced people's leadership or leadership decisions. Those are the people put in place by the people that were voted in through the executive branch. The president represents someone that was voted for by all of the people in the country. Those are the policies that we want, not the policies of the people that happen to get control of the government by saying they're career officials. Thank you, but no thank you. Check out the nerve on these career people. Those demands from the political appointees were so objectionable to the people who work there that it became a section in name only, having its staff of more than 20 lawyers reduced to a handful. Objectionable to the people who work there. Well, no one cares what you think. You're getting paid to do a job. Go ahead and do that job. You're not there to make policy for the government, for the American people. That's what we elect people to do. When President Trump took office in January, there were around 380 lawyers in the Civil Rights Division, according to current and former Justice Department officials. Based on unofficial estimates of the number of people planning to resign by Monday's deadline, the division will soon be left with about 140 lawyers, less than half, or possibly fewer. The figures are roughly similar to the non-lawyer support staff in the division, according to current and former officials. The departures have also increased as political appointees at the department reassigned the few remaining career managers at the division, leaving line attorneys worried that their work responsibilities are quickly sliding into a chaotic daily scramble in which it's unclear on any given day who their boss will be. It is great to know who your boss is so you can kind of know what you can get away with at the office. I understand that. It's a time of change, so yeah, you're going to actually have to just focus on doing your job instead. Do your work. Don't focus on what you can get away with. And you have a good chance of keeping your job, especially when so many people are leaving. They need people at the office. Even if you're not competent, they're going to keep you for a long time. Your only issue is you're going to actually have to do the work. Vanita Gupta, who ran the division during the Obama administration, so a lot of this was her fault, and then served as a senior Justice Department official during the Biden administration, warned that the changes underway signaled a broader transformation. Quote, "This is not just simply a change in enforcement priorities. The division has been turned on its head and is now being used as a weapon against the very communities it was established to protect," she said. Like other federal departments, the purpose of this department in our government is to serve the people. It's not even to serve marginalized people, white people, black people, imaginary people. It's to serve the citizens of the United States. And that's what it's being directed to do. Within the Civil Rights Division, it's commonplace for some cases to be dropped or for some cases to be initiated with the change in administrations. In and of themselves, current and former DOJ people say those types of decisions are not particularly surprising. But the way Attorney General Pam Bondi and Ms. Dillon have announced such decisions has alarmed many who work there. It's not just the priorities have changed, but the very purpose of the division itself. Former officials point to a set of new mission statements produced this month that they say make major parts of the division's work unrecognizable. Stacey Young, another former official who always has a lot to complain about, said this, quote, "With the reckless dismantling of the division, we'll see unchecked discrimination and constitutional violations in schools, housing, employment, voting, prisons, by police departments, and in many other realms of our daily lives." So just like we were seeing in colleges and universities, and when certain employees, because of their skin colors, weren't even allowed to apply for certain jobs and you guys weren't involved in any of that? Yeah, I think it is time for a change. The agency's political leaders, who were appointed by the president and approved by the Senate of the United States, say their mission is to end the weaponization of the department against conservatives and end illegal diversity, equity, and inclusion inside and outside the government. Illegal DEI, which is a buzzword of the Trump administration, is particularly confusing to employees in the division whose jobs have long been to ensure equal protection under the law. They just don't know what people are talking about. What do you mean DEI discrimination? That's nothing. That never happened. Last week, Acting Assistant Attorney General Ms. Dillon announced that the division was withdrawing court filings in 2 cases related to transgender prison inmates. Given the current administration's position on the issue, the withdrawal was expected. These were biological men being sent to women's prisons. But in announcing the move, senior Justice Department officials accused the agency itself of having abused the legal system, which of course they did. Quote, "The prior administration's arguments in transgender inmate cases were based on junk science," Ms. Dillon said. The prior administration's nonsensical reading of the Americans with Disabilities Act was an affront to the very people the statute is intended to protect. Weeks earlier, Attorney General Bondi used similar caustic language in stating that the department would drop a Biden-era lawsuit that charged a 2021 Georgia law overhauling election procedures was discriminatory, because it wasn't discriminatory. Quote, "Georgians deserve secure elections, not fabricated claims of false voter suppression meant to divide us," she said. Matthew Ross, a professor at Northwestern University who often serves as an expert witness in cases in which the department reaches consent decrees to reform local police departments, which does not give him any special credibility. He's a political actor like all the rest of them. But he said this. He said he'd heard from lawyers in the division he had worked with that they would be leaving. Inside the division, there have been many discussions about scrapping long-established consent decrees with police departments and instead bringing cases against liberal cities to loosen their gun restrictions, according to people familiar with the discussions. Because you're supposed to be about protecting constitutional rights. If this Department of Civil Rights was not actually protecting people's constitutional rights, then what exactly were they doing? Ross described the departures at the department as a mass exodus, one that will have far-reaching consequences. Quote, "We're going multiple steps backwards in terms of modernizing law enforcement in this country, and it's quite unfortunate," he said. A lot of the work that the Civil Rights Division is actually doing is getting these police agencies up to a modern standard, even on simple goals like replacing paper forms with searchable computer data. They're replacing paper forms with searchable computer data? Why? So they can hide the data they don't like? Why do we need the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division playing around with paper forms and searchable data? Obviously, they're doing something they should not be doing. That's not the business of the Justice Department. That might be the business of DOJ, but it's none of their business. Given how many people are leaving the division, he said, it's not clear how they're even going to comply with the existing consent decrees. The concern of career staff members inside the division are not simply that much of their traditional work is being abandoned. Current and former staff members say Ms. Dillon and other political appointees in the department, who have actually been put there by the American people through elections, have pushed the division to embark on priorities of the Trump administration and the American people that do not appear to line up with current anti-discrimination laws or the decades of precedents surrounding those laws. Of course, that's the way the career people say, you're defending the people with the wrong skin colors. We don't treat everyone the same in this country. Yeah, we're supposed to. That's actually the whole point of this. Here's some of their specific complaints. For instance, a handful of civil rights lawyers have been sent to the Department of Health and Human Services, with orders to investigate anti-Semitism involving campus protests against Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip, or maybe protests in support of Hamas. Specifically, those investigations are meant to focus on medical schools because the federal government can withhold sizable sums of grant money that goes to them. The Trump administration, these people said, see the money as a key form of leverage to dictate new standards for campus conduct. Not quite sure what the problem is. The Department of Justice is part of a task force focused on anti-Semitism at these college campuses because the college campuses have been allowing this and it's gotten way out of control with encampments, violence, blocking students from being able to go to class. Remember, a lot of these students actually live on campus, so they're being terrorized 24/7 when all they're trying to do is basically eat, sleep, live, and go to school. Another group of civil rights lawyers have been assigned to work on cases for the Trump administration's stated goal of protecting women at colleges and schools, which is how the administration describes its efforts to prevent transgender students from playing in women's sports or biological males from playing in women's sports. Yeah, that's a priority of the administration and the American people. Women do actually have civil rights, and they are still being violated. As J.K. Rowling said, and so did Hannibal Smith from the A-Team, I love it when a plan comes together. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.